What's so interesting, Tom, is that you have seen effective tariff rates in the United States over the course of the last 15 months change something like 60 times. And those don't even count the various tariffs that have been announced by the president on Truth Social, but then ultimately not implemented. And so, in some sense, I feel for the American people and all of us, and I particularly am so in awe of my team at Budget Lab because tracking every twist and turn of this and keeping an eye on what is likely on the down the pike with respect to where tariffs are going to land is like an incredibly difficult challenge in a really volatile environment, which I feel like is almost as bad from an economic perspective as tariff rates that are at levels that we haven't seen since 1940. Like the fact that they're moving around with such extremity, I think is really, really difficult from an economic perspective just to like plan. And it's difficult for our allies to think about what environment they're going to be in as they think about things like aluminum in Quebec.
What are we seeing from corporate America? If it seems like companies are just dealing with it, depending upon the industry, depending upon the company, either taking some of these tariff cost increases in your margin versus passing them along to the consumer. What are we seeing so far?
I feel like on one perspective, with respect to the tariffs specifically, over the course of the first few months after Liberation Day, I think you saw relatively muted effects, maybe to what you might have expected, in part because what a lot of companies had done is they had just like front loaded a lot of inventory in advance in anticipation of knowing that high tariffs were on the horizon. And Budget Lab recently did a bit of a retrospective where we looked at trying to understand how the tariff environment had evolved a year after Liberation Day. And one of the points we made was that you actually have seen very significant pass through, depending on the sector, something like between 40 to 70% over the course of the last year. And so it's actually quite significant of an economic impact.
I had a window years ago, Natasha, where I worked with the Federal Reserve Bank of Minneapolis on their path-breaking work on educating children, I'm going to say folks age 3 to age 5. Nobody talks about this. It's like pre-kindergarten and all that. You have just nailed this. What's the summary of your impact on our early childhood failure?
Many of us at Budget Lab, myself included, have young children. And so this is an area of like deep personal interest to us, in addition to being of such extreme policy import. And one of the things that sort of struck us in the context of policy conversations around things like, what is the right way to help young families? Is it to give them cash subsidies? Is it to invest in early childhood education? Is it to do some combination of those two things? Is that it was really difficult to understand and analyze where the best dollar, what the most productive dollar from the government could be with respect to these types of investments. And so Budget Lab sort of identified this problem and said, we have a tool for that, and we're going to build out the infrastructure that's going to be able to do it. And one of the really important parts of it is it reflects the fact that, there are really significant sort of policy impacts associated with investing in giving families access to more early childhood education. But if you don't also simultaneously increase the supply of educational providers, what you can do is you can actually increase the cost of education for families by subsidizing it, because those dollars are going to be such that they're more dollars chasing fewer options from an education perspective.